Have you ever had that eerie sense that someone is watching you, even though they're not texting or calling? It's that gut feeling that tells you they're silently lurking in the background, keeping tabs on your every move, scrolling through your photos, checking your updates, and quietly following your life. You haven't heard from them in days, weeks, or even months, yet you know they're there, unwilling to acknowledge it. They may never admit it, not because they don't care, but because their pride won't let them. They'd rather remain silent than send a simple message. I miss you. Their pride keeps them from texting first, and in doing so, they're hiding from a truth they're terrified to confront. They need you more than you need them. They've built an illusion in their mind that you'll always be there waiting for them to come back. But when you stop chasing, stop showing them that you're still waiting, that's when the tables turn. Your silence, your absence, it speaks volumes. It forces them to realize that the power they thought they held over you is slipping away. They're watching, waiting for signs of weakness, hoping to see you post something that screams you're missing them. They want to see the emotional pain they expect to find. But what if they see nothing? What if they realize that you're not hurting? That's when they start questioning themselves. Were you ever the one desperate to get them back? Or were they the ones who miscalculated your strength? What really breaks them isn't just your silence. It's the crushing fear that they're losing someone they'll regret not holding on to forever. The fear that you're becoming someone they'll never find again. In this video, we're going to dive deep into the psychological games behind their silent watching, why they're too proud to text, and how you can reclaim your power with no effort at all. By the end, you'll understand that the most powerful thing you can do isn't reach out. It's evolve into the person they never thought you could be without them. Drop this affirmation in the comments. My silence speaks louder than words. If you're ready to let your actions do the talking, let's get started. Number 1, they pretend to forget you, but they're watching everything. They act like they've erased you from their life, but in reality, you're the ghost they can't shake off. They'll pretend they've moved on, posting photos with friends, sharing moments that scream joy, and plastering their life with fake smiles. But don't be fooled by the facade. Beneath that show, there's someone secretly lurking on your page, desperately trying to catch a glimpse of the person they thought they could always count on. People don't pay attention to what doesn't matter, so the fact that they're watching you while pretending to be indifferent only proves one thing. You're still imprinted in their mind. They won't like your posts because they don't want you to know they're paying attention. They won't check your stories right away because they're trying to convince themselves that they're unaffected. But the silence between you is louder than anything they could ever say. What keeps them hooked isn't the content you share. It's the mystery you've created. Every moment you enjoy without them, every photo of you thriving, every day you remain silent, it's driving them insane. They're waiting for any hint that you're still struggling. But the longer you stay silent, the more their imagination fills in the gaps. The ultimate revenge isn't putting on a show to prove you're happy, at letting them wonder if you even remember them at all. Epictetus, the Stoic philosopher, once said, "If anyone tells you that a certain person speaks ill of you, do not make excuses about what is said of you, but answer, 'He was ignorant of my other faults, else he would not have mentioned these alone. This wisdom holds an undeniable truth. The more you stay silent, the more they'll invent their own story about you. They'll convince themselves that you're outgrowing them. They'll believe that you're becoming someone they'll never get the chance to know again. Let them think that. Let them wonder. Let them toss and turn, questioning whether you're still mourning them, or if you've already realized they were never worth your tears. The true power you hold is in becoming the enigma they'll never be able to solve. Drop this affirmation in the comments. I am the mystery they'll never figure out. Number 2, why they're watching but not reaching out. They're watching but not reaching out because their pride is standing guard, blocking any real connection. Deep down, they still care. That's why they can't take their eyes off you. But feeling something and acting on it are two very different things. Reaching out would require vulnerability. It would force them to admit they made a mistake. It would mean giving up the power they thought they held over you. And for someone who's always prioritized, their ego, swallowing their pride, feels heavier than the silence they hide behind. They're not watching you because they're happy to see you thrive. They're watching to see if you're still hurting. They want to believe you're still holding on to the past, replaying old moments like they secretly are. But what really terrifies them is the idea that you've moved on completely. The fear of seeing you unbothered, thriving without them, is what keeps them lurking in the shadows, pretending you're not even on their mind. Psychology says that when someone watches you without reaching out, it's because they're emotionally tied to you, but too proud to admit it. They want to know if you're still under their influence, but the longer you stay silent, the more they start to see that the grip they once had on you is slipping. They won't text you because they know that once they do, the illusion of control will shatter. What they're really afraid of isn't just your silence. It's the realization that you've outgrown the person who would have dropped everything for them. The longer they wait, the harder it becomes to reach out. Their pride builds a fortress around their feelings, and every day they stay silent. They convince themselves it's too late to fix anything. Each time they check your updates without sending a message, the regret deepens. As Marcus Aurelius wisely said, the best revenge is to be unlike him who performed the injury. You don't need to block them. You don't need to post passive-aggressive quotes. You don't need to do anything but be the person they can't reach anymore. They thought breaking you would mean you'd always be there waiting to be fixed. But your silence is showing them that you're not waiting. You're evolving, and you're rising. Drop this affirmation in the comments. I'm not waiting, I'm rising. Number 3, how their mind is working behind the silence. Their silence isn't strength. It's their defense mechanism. The mind always shields the ego before allowing the heart to feel regret. When they walked away, they told themselves it was the right choice. They believed you'd be the one broken and begging for them to come back, waiting in silence, falling apart. But what they never saw coming was your silence becoming your power, and now it's breaking them in ways they can't control. At first, their mind convinces them you're playing some kind of game, that you're staying quiet just to get their attention. That's why they stalk your pages, waiting for you to slip up. They're watching, hoping for the hint of sadness, the one post that screams you're still pining for them. But when they see nothing, the game changes. Their curiosity takes over. Why aren't you reaching out? Why aren't you showing them you're hurt? Then frustration starts to bubble up. The person they thought would always chase after them is now indifferent. And the hardest truth to swallow: your silence is affecting them far more than any message could. That frustration morphs into fear. Fear that you're truly moving on. Fear that you're no longer emotionally invested. And fear that maybe, just maybe, they didn't matter to you as much as they thought they did. But their pride is still there, whispering, "Don't text first. They'll come back." That's the internal tug-of-war happening in their mind every single day. They want to reach out, but doing so would mean admitting defeat, surrendering their ego. The longer they stay silent, though, the heavier the weight of regret grows. By the time they realize what they've lost, they're stuck in a painful decision: swallow their pride, or let the silence consume them. Most will choose the latter because facing their reflection is more painful than losing you. As Seneca wisely said, it is a great thing to know the season for speech and the season for silence. Your silence isn't just hurting them. It's forcing them to confront the version of themselves they spent the whole relationship running from. The person who never thought you'd walk away. The one who took you for granted. And the one who never believed you could thrive without them. Drop this affirmation in the comments. My silence is teaching them what my presence never could. Number 4. How you can feel they're watching. Have you ever had the sudden, inexplicable feeling that they're watching you, even when you're completely fine? That's not just your imagination. It's their energy reaching out to yours. When someone is quietly observing your life from a distance, they're unknowingly creating an invisible link between you. It's not just about scrolling through your pictures or rewatching old conversations in their mind. Every action they take, every time they type your name into a search bar, every time they replay memories of you, sends an energetic signal your way. And you, whether you realize it or not, are picking up on every single one of those signals. Here's the truth. The connection doesn't fade when the words stop. It fades when one person stops fueling it. You feel their presence because they're emotionally still tethered to you, trying to satisfy that attachment without reaching out. The more they silently watch you, the stronger that invisible pull becomes. That's why, out of nowhere, you'll feel waves of longing for them. Think about them when you're trying to move on, or dream about them trying to talk to you. You might even feel their presence when you're trying to forget them. But here's the secret they don't realize. You have the power to break this invisible chain. Every time you feel their pull, it's because they're sending out energy toward you. But every time you choose not to react, you reclaim your energy. The most effective way to break this energetic connection is to starve it. Stop checking their page. Stop replaying the past. Stop searching for any signs that they're still watching. The less attention you give them, the weaker their pull becomes. Eventually you'll wake up one day and realize they don't have a hold on you anymore. The ultimate revenge is emotional freedom. When you stop feeding that connection, they will feel the distance, and they'll know, without you saying a word, that you've let go. And that feeling of you slipping away without a goodbye, it will haunt them far more than anything you could say or do. Drop this affirmation in the comments. I release what no longer serves me. Number 5. What their silence is really saying. Their silence isn't rejection. It's a powerful statement. It's confirmation that you're far stronger than they ever gave you credit for. People walk away from what they think will always heal itself, and they distance themselves from what they believe will always wait for them. But the truth is, the reason they're staying silent isn't because they don't care. It's because they want to test whether they still have power over you. Without saying a word, their silence becomes a game. They're waiting to see if you'll break, if you'll chase after them, if you'll prove them right. That no matter how badly they treated you, you'd still come crawling back. But here's where the power shifts. The moment you choose not to play their game, their silence becomes louder than anything they could ever say. Every second you stay quiet speaks volumes. Your silence says, I don't need you. It says, I'm not chasing you anymore. And most powerfully, it says, I'm evolving into someone you'll regret losing. What they're really waiting for isn't just your message. It's the confirmation that they still have a grip on you. But when that message never comes, their ego begins to crack. The reality sets in. Their silence isn't strength, it's fear. Fear that you're better off without them. Fear that you're rebuilding yourself into someone they'll never have access to again. Fear that you're finally starting to realize your own worth. Many people would rather sit in silence than confront the guilt of knowing they lost someone who would have done anything to make it work. Your silence forces them to face a painful truth they've been trying to avoid. They were never as important to you as they thought they were. They're not reaching out because the thought of being ignored by you terrifies them more than the loneliness of missing you. And the longer your silence holds, the deeper that fear digs into their soul. As Epictetus wisely said, if you wish to be loved, love yourself first. This is your time to show yourself that love. This is the moment to realize that sometimes the most powerful thing you can say is nothing at all. Drop this affirmation in the comments. My silence speaks louder than their pride. Number 6. Should you text them first? The answer is always no. If they cared enough, they'd find a way to reach out. If they missed you enough, their pride wouldn't stop them. Love doesn't hide behind silence. True feelings rise above the ego. The only reason you're even contemplating texting them first is because they've conditioned you to always be the one who makes the first move, who fixes the broken things. But not this time. Every time you break your silence, you're handing them back the control they abandoned. You're telling them they were right to walk away and that you're still waiting for them to choose you. Here's the hard truth. Anyone who made you question your worth never deserved to have you in the first place. If they really wanted to talk, if they truly cared, they would find a way, because when someone values you, nothing will stand in their way. So who really values you? Not pride, not fear, not ego. The only message they deserve is your absence. Let your silence speak louder than words. Let your distance become the lesson they never expected. Don't text them first. Don't give them the satisfaction of knowing you're still waiting. The hardest thing to do is stay silent when your heart longs to reach out. But the most powerful thing you can do is make them wonder if they ever mattered enough to break your silence. As Marcus Aurelius said, a person's worth is measured by the worth of what they value. If they valued you, they would reach out If they valued your presence, they'd swallow their pride. Let them feel the weight of your absence until they realize how much your presence actually meant. Drop this affirmation in the comments. I will never beg someone to realize my worth. Number 7. What happens if you stay silent? If you stay silent long enough, two things will happen. They will break, and you will rise. At first, they'll convince themselves your silence is just a tactic, a way to get their attention. But as the days drag on and the silence deepens, the weight of it will start to crush them. What seemed like a game to them will soon turn into confusion. Confusion will lead to doubt, and doubt will turn into full-blown regret. Every moment you choose not to reach out is a moment they realize you're no longer who they thought you were. You're not chasing. You're not begging. You're not waiting around for their validation. You're showing them exactly what it feels like to live without your energy propping them up. But here's the real transformation. It's not just about what happens to them. It's about what happens to you. Every second you hold your silence, you start to reclaim your power. You stop waiting for them to fill the void you used to allow them to create. You begin to realize the version of you that once pleaded for their attention and love is gone. You're not checking your phone first thing in the morning. You're smiling without needing their approval. The confidence you once searched for in them, you now find within yourself. The Stoics believed true strength lies in emotional control. Silence isn't weakness. It's a declaration of power. When you can stay silent, you're not just controlling your words. You're mastering your emotions. And when you master your emotions, you become untouchable. By the time they muster up the courage to reach out, you'll be too busy becoming the person they always feared you'd become without them. I want you to drop this affirmation in the comments. My silence is my power, and I am rebuilding in private. They may be watching, but their pride won't let them reach out. What they don't realize is that by you staying silent, you're not just hurting them, you're healing yourself. You don't need closure. You don't need an apology. You don't need them to see your worth. The best revenge is becoming someone they can never touch again. If you've chosen silence over begging, drop this final affirmation in the comments. I'm not waiting. I'm rising. Make sure to subscribe for more videos like this, because the best transformation always happens in silence. Let them watch. Let them wonder. Let them regret.